Hello everybody and welcome to this video of Dead by Daylight's PTB patch notes for 2.7.0a. Our last video was covering the base release of the patch notes and what we could expect to see in our live game once they release, and they finally made a few minor updates while also testing out the new dedicated servers. If you need to catch yourself up with the original patch notes, please follow the link in the description to 2.7.0. So to start us off, they've made a few changes to the endgame collapse. Gate times were reverted back to their 20-second open time, and the collapse timer was bumped down to 2 minutes from 3. With the time I spent playing with these changes, I've learned that they've made no impact themselves other than returning to the game to what it once was. Being the gates have a slightly longer open time, it is helpful when survivors finish the generators. The timer, on the other hand, made no impact, as I've always been able to make it out as survivor before the timer was even close to expiring. Even when a survivor gets hooked, I'm just kind of standing at the exit gate ready to leave if I want to. They do slow the timer down. It does say, hey, I can go back and save them, but why would I? I don't really feel the need to, and I don't feel like being impaled if the timer's getting a little low, so I just walk out. And that works to great effect to force me to leave. That's fantastic, otherwise it really doesn't do anything. Some additional changes have also been made to Legion. They've returned Legion's ability to open lockers while in frenzy and also made a few adjustments to the fatigue reducing add-ons. Several players believe that Legion is still powerful by using the fatigue add-ons, as you could close the gap using your power during chase and then fatigue yourself in order to strike the survivor, but these add-on changes will make that slightly harder to accomplish, as usually with the most powerful add-ons you could take 1.5 seconds off your fatigue time, but now at most you can only do 1 second. That half a second is a little more impactful than you would think. Playing with Legion felt almost pointless, and a lot of people have made their point that Legion is still pretty good, to which I heavily disagree. The power to apply deep wounds doesn't serve the purpose of taking down a target. It doesn't even work in chase and is not a good tracking tool unless you're chasing somebody. You must hit somebody first to even get the tracking properties of it. You might as well play Doctor if you want tracking, and you might as well play Wraith if you want stealth. I don't feel that Legion's power serves a purpose. It needs a rework, a full-blown Freddy rework that we actually get. I would actually like to see Legion have a power that is useful, fun for both sides. The appeal of having the ability of leaping over pallets and windows is lost due to this power and deep wounds. If you try to use it in chase to ignore a pallet or window, and you fatigue yourself after leaping over, the survivor can just return over the pallet or window unless you're blocking it with your body. And if you choose to do that, they can just continue back through the loop to go through from the other side. No matter what, you're kind of doomed in this situation, as your power, again, really serves no point. You are playing a base M1 killer. There were some other bits that were pretty interesting, as they're now boarding up the maze walls of Coldwind Farm to reduce the ability of looking through the tiles. This was intended to be a part of the original update but was added later. This will allow the map to function more like other maps where the walls of the jungle gyms are more solid. It's a good quality of life update. Let's take a moment to talk about the timer for the endgame collapse. While playing this and taking the opinion of fellow content creators, I've come to realize the timer is almost pointless for the hatch standoff itself. Let me explain. My prior video said that it was understandable as to why they made the gates require 15 seconds to open. The problem was that with multiple survivors, that was too strong. Although looking through the final survivor's eyes, it made sense that the gates would open a little faster. Once the final survivor remains, it's a race to the hatch for both players as they dive as fast as they can to get to it. The first one there essentially wins. If the killer gets there though, and closes the hatch, it feels that the survivor is doomed, because if the killer sees the survivor at any point, the survivor dies. There's no escaping the killer. They have a 2-minute timer to get a door open and get out. If the killer is after them, it is very easy just to chase them for 2 minutes. You don't even have to try to down them. You can goof around and just let the entity impale them and take the sacrifice. This caused me to follow a survivor around as a killer until the timer ran out so I could see the entity get a kill. I felt that if the hatch closes, the game should just end for the sake of the survivor. Don't get me wrong, a survivor has the possibility of opening a door and escaping through the door if the doors spawn at a decent distance from each other. It just doesn't seem likely, especially if there's killers such as Hag or Trapper around that could easily trap both sides and prevent a survivor from even working on a door. Now we also have the dedicated servers to talk about. This was an announcement last year that was pretty hype for the game as it was one of the most desired changes since its release. Being able to test the servers was a good opportunity to see how it would affect the game, and its effects are noticeable. Overall, it does seem to fix a lot of the latency issues in terms of attacks seeming like they shouldn't hit, with an exception. You see, the dedicated servers help bridge the latency between both players to make it as equal as possible while also taking stress off the host and placing it on the server itself. With that in mind, if the server begins to suffer for any reason, then all players suffer with the effects we're already familiar with. I've had a couple of issues with the latency which made the hitbox problem so much worse, which there isn't a hitbox problem. I'll have to make a video on that and explain why. But the latency was so bad to the point where when I went to fast vault a window, I would make the animation of a fast vault, but it was half the speed, slow-mo Matrix style. But then the killer would get a speed boost, hit me, and then I flew forward faster than you normally would when taking a hit, and it looked absolutely awkward. There was another time where I was playing killer and I swung in front of me while the survivor actually got behind me, and I still hit them, and they went down behind me. It was the most awkward thing to see. I really wish I had it pre-recorded for this, but unfortunately I was just playing some random games to test some things out. I briefly spoke with Gamma Lunatic, a German content creator and Fog Whisperer, about his experience of the servers across the sea. Apparently for them, the latency was high and not as stable as it was for me here in America. It was likely I'm on the California server as I played with the Survive with Friends group I brought along. It's something in progress, so not something we should expect on release, but I'm not sure if anyone overseas in the EU or Australia might suffer a little more, being that the servers may be less stable, or it just needs some fine-tuning, but that was what I was told from their end. Dedicated servers were released to be tested, likely to handle stress and all these things. They could be perfect when they come out. It's just something we're going to have to see. It is looking promising though, as the games had really low ping for me, but again, that was the California server and each server might be a little different. With that said, that covers just about everything with this small update to the PTB. What do you guys think? Hyped for dedicated servers? Let me know. I'll catch you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and as always, good game.